I did not expect the Deputy Prime Minister to use his speech on the President's address to attack and accuse the Workers' Party of advancing opportunistic or populist ideas to chip away, bit by bit, the trust in government. The PAP shifted its position yesterday in the course of the debate when Mr. Ong Ye Kung conceded that the Workers' Party had brought up many good ideas. But both ministers were consistent in calling for the opposition to present an alternative agenda and even an alternative budget. I will deal with this point in the course of my speech. To address DPM Wong, if all we were doing was putting forward populist, unrealistic policies, we would not see the government actively considering some variation of the Workers' Party manifesto ideas on anti-discrimination legislation, minimum wage, and redundancy insurance. If chipping away at trust in the government was our real agenda, we would not see the Minister for National Development acknowledging the Workers' Party point, highlighting the inherent inequity of HDB taxpayer subsidies as currently applied between mature and non-mature BTO flats. It is a most unfair charge levelled at the Workers' Party, which in reality chips away at the integrity of our parliamentary democracy as an important platform for the exposition and contestation of ideas. In fact, we welcome the PAP taking up Workers' Party points because the real beneficiaries are not the Workers' Party or the PAP, but the people of Singapore.
So on the larger point that the Leader of the Opposition and Mr. Singh had highlighted, I'm glad he agrees with me that we do need both serious government and serious opposition in our maturing democracy. I made the point in my speech. He has a different view on the way I've characterized some of the proposals made by the opposition, and that's his view. I accept that. I think there we may well have to agree to disagree, but I made this broader point about how our democracy will evolve because I do worry when I look at how democracies elsewhere have evolved. Look at the great democracies of the world, democracies far bigger, far more developed than ours, and look at where they are now, how their societies have become divided and polarized, how their systems have become stuck in gridlock. It's not as though their people are unloyal to their countries, not at all. But how is it that these countries have become so dysfunctional where politics is concerned? And what makes us so sure that Singapore is immune and we somehow can avoid such a fate happening in Singapore down the road? So I think there are lessons for us. And the lessons is, if you look at many of these countries, populism has taken root, and populism has damaged greatly their societies, divided and polarized their people. What is populism? Populism is politics that suppresses the truth, shades the truth, gets into post-truth, distorts the facts for political advantage. Populism is politics that pretends there are simple answers to complex issues, because there aren't. And if such populism were ever to take root in Singapore, well, in the short term, parties that push up such populist policies may gain some advantage, but in the longer term, it will cause great damage to Singapore and Singaporeans. So from the government's point of view, our stand is very clear. We reject all forms of populism. We make sure and we uphold honesty and integrity in policy making. If the government were ever to fall short of these standards, we expect the opposition to call us out and say so. Please do. You have to do it. We expect you to do it. Conversely, if the opposition were to propose ideas and policies that we feel are populist, we likewise will highlight them and highlight our concerns, rightfully so. So I hope that's our common understanding of how we can take Singapore's politics and democracy forward. Mr. Pritam Singh said that Singaporeans believe in the cause of the opposition and doesn't want the cause of the opposition to falter and fade away. I believe there is a role for the opposition to play in our politics, in our democracy, and a very important role to campaign for your ideas and your proposals, to hold the elected government to account, and to offer serious alternatives to the government. Mr. Singh says, it takes time, you're not ready to form the next government, you take one step at a time, wanted. But in politics, things can happen very quickly. So I'm glad Mr. Singh is mindful that there is an important role for the opposition to play, and I think he should start thinking about how he and the WP can indeed, perhaps not sitting in this side of the aisle, but on this side of the aisle in future, down the road, what sort of agenda you would offer Singaporeans and what you would do if you were to form the government. So if there's one thing that I hope all of us can take away from this debate, and given that there's, in fact, I would say, some common understanding of this from what I hear from Mr. Singh's speech, one outcome that we might be able to say to Singaporeans is this, that we, together in this House, both sides of the House, we stand for a democracy that is maturing, a serious government, and a serious opposition. We say yes to all that, but we say no to populism and political opportunism ever taking root in this House and in Singapore.
Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me just deal with the last point made by the Honourable DPM. I don't think there's any difficulty for me or my colleagues to agree to that. And I think coming back to actually Prime Minister's speech, which I think a lot more Singaporeans should have a listen to, we know the future is not exactly smooth. There are a lot of unpredictable factors that we have to contend with. And in the course of debate in this House, we will be going back and forth at each other's proposals and ideas. But insofar as populism and opportunism are concerned, I am quite certain the DPM means that that ought to work both ways. It cannot be a case of pointing fingers at the opposition and accusing them of that when certain actions of ruling party politicians on the ground are no better. But having said that, I accept DPM's concerns of our democracy, and certainly the Workers' Party, and I hope the opposition in general will be mindful going forward and work towards the betterment of Singapore and Singaporeans.